Hello everybody, welcome to the Racing Years here on Racing TV. I hope you're all staying fit, healthy and well out there, and we aim to bring a bit of racing cheer to you over the next hour and a half. We've got an awful lot to bring you throughout the show. We would like you to get in touch if you possibly can, sending us an email or via our Twitter handle. You can tell us about your favourite races in 2012, the year that we will be examining today. Any incidents you want to talk about, favourite rides, favourite horses, favourite finishes, anything whatsoever. We would love to hear from you throughout the show. 2012 was a big year. It was the year that Vladimir Putin became president of Russia. Barack Obama went back to the White House for the second consecutive time. The London Olympics were acclaimed as the best ever in 2012 as well. And Her Majesty the Queen, well, she celebrated her Diamond Jubilee. She'd reigned over us for 60 years. And these are some of the horses who reigned supreme in that year.
Racing down towards the final flight. Rock on Ruby was the leader. In second was Overturned. Hurricane Fly is back in third. He's still got 3 lengths to find. They've got half a furlong to go. Rock on Ruby is out in front. And Rock on Ruby wins the champion hurdle.
Big Bucks, Valer Lavadette trying to travel out wide, now switches to the rival. Big Bucks, Ruby Walsh wants to look the rival in the eye. Valer Lavadette has scuttled up the near side and is now only a length down. Big Bucks, Valer Lavadette is trying very hard, but Big Bucks is driven out and Valer Lavadette will fail like so many have done in the past. 16 in a row, a 4th world hurdle equals to Ken's record. Synchronised is coming home strongly with the white face for Tony Mackay, and Long Run jumps alongside as well. Synchronised, who was flat to the boards early, has fought his way to the front. Long Run battling on the far side, the giant bolster, but it's Synchronised who's come right from the back of the field to win a dramatic Betfred Cheltenham Gold Cup. Synchronised for AP Mackay, John O'Neill and JP McManus won the Gold Cup.
Sunny Hill Boy and Richie McClendon have got the lead over Seabass and Katie Walsh. Neptune Collonge and Daryl Jacob. They've got another 150 yards to go. Sunny Hill Boy with Neptune Collonge on the outside, bearing down, racing towards the line. Sunny Hill Boy and Neptune Collonge in a head-bobbing, pulsating finish to the Grand National.
And now Camelot moves past Astrology into 30's main sequence, but up towards the line, it is Camelot who leads by 3 or 4 lengths from Astrology. And at the line, the father and son combination of Joseph and Aidan O'Brien won the Investec Derby with Camelot. This is the moment. This is what makes him such a great racehorse. An instant turn of foot on horses that are top class in their own right are made to look pedestrian. Frankel dismisses his rivals with contempt. 12 out of 12, a second Kipco Sussex Stakes, an 8th Group 1.
Quealy shakes the reins, the response is immediate, down to the last furlong, and Frankel bounds clear, and this is all over. Frankel scorching away, this perfect mix of poetry and destruction, this glory of rhythm, power and majesty, the undisputed champion of the world. Frankel wins the Juddmonte International, and it's 13 out of 13.
Frankel bidding to settle it. Cirrus de Zegler is making a fight of it on the far side. Frankel extends. Cirrus de Zegler is a worthy adversary, but up towards the line. All comers, all ground, all beaten. Frankel won the Champion Stakes and lives up to the title.
Some truly spine-tingling moments there, and those are some of the horses that we will be talking about as we work our way through the show. I'm delighted to say that I am joined by Rishi Persad, not in person, obviously, because of social distancing measures that are going on, and not least because he can't walk, but he's there with me from his home. Welcome, Rishi, and first things first, how are you?
Captain, I'm all right, thank you. Obviously, like everybody else, just coming to terms with what we all have to go through, but hopefully things are on the improve, and then we'll come through this on the other side. And how are you?
Yes, all going well, Rishi. Yes, I'm managing to homeschool of a fashion. How are you getting on with that?
I have to say, homeschooling is a challenge. The one thing I've now realised I definitely cannot do is become a teacher. I don't think I can handle the discipline required to maintain it for a couple of days, far less a week.
You broke your leg a few weeks ago, Rishi. Some viewers may not know. How's that coming along?
It's not too bad. I had surgery on it on Gold Cup day during Cheltenham, and I had a plate and some screws put in. And it's getting a bit better. Had some physio on it, and hopefully in about 3 weeks I'll be off crutches and then be able to put some weight on it. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, it's probably not that important. But hopefully when everything ends, I'll be back on my feet.
I'm sure you will be. I'm sure you will be. And I'm sure you've done a little bit of research into 2012, the year that we're going to be looking at in the show today. And you've dropped on a fantastic year of horse racing.
It was absolutely incredible. Nicky Henderson was brilliant. He had the most amazing Cheltenham Festival, the battle for the Trainers' Championship with Paul Nicholls. Some highlights already seen with Neptune Collonges gathering Sunny Hill Boy just before the line. It was also the last year that the BBC covered terrestrial racing on terrestrial television, so I had the privilege of being involved in some important race days and some memorable ones. There was obviously Frankel's career, his final season of racing. Black Caviar came over for Royal Ascot. So there were some great moments that I'm sure we'll be going back over in the next few minutes or so, the next hour or so. But it was one of those years that you'll never forget. And obviously the fact that Frankel was enjoying the final year and the poignant memories of Sir Henry Cecil and Frankel in particular through that year, there'll be days and occasions that we will remember for a very, very long time.
Yeah, do you have one particular abiding memory from the year? If I was going to cite one at this stage, it would be Frankel in the Juddmonte International. What about yourself?
It would be Frankel in the Juddmonte International in terms of what happened on the racecourse and the pure performance of it. But I thought the drama of Champions Day 2012 was something that I'll never forget. And obviously the Champion Stakes itself, where throughout Frankel's career, if you remember, Sir Henry Cecil always wanted to get the horse to settle. He was a tear away. Yes, he won the Guineas in amazing style, but I don't think, in reality, that would have been the ideal performance that Sir Henry and connections would ideally wanted. They wouldn't have wanted blasting off and going that far clear of the field. But in the end, it was spectacular. What they wanted was a horse that had settled, and they did it so well that when it came to the Champion Stakes, the final race of his career, the fact that the rain had fallen and it was soft ground and there were a few things against him from that perspective, everyone suspected it was going to be his last race. Then he had settled so well that he was so lazy coming out the stalls he missed the kick. And it was quite an advantage that he handed the other horses, classy horses like Cyrus Egg and Nathaniel. So although the Juddmonte was the most pure performance in terms of the way he moved through the race and almost perfection, the fact that he had overcome that challenge in the Champion Stakes and then Sir Henry summed up his career at the end of it, that would have been just about the highlight for me through 2012.
More about Frankel and on, of course, in the show. But what about Cheltenham? We've got a question for you, Rishi, a trivia question. We're going to pose a few questions through the show too. How many consecutive years has Barry Geraghty had at least one winner at the Cheltenham Festival, Rishi?
How many consecutive years? Wow, good question. That's a tough one. How long have I got to answer this, Captain? Because
you've got about 10 seconds because I want to talk to Barry Geraghty.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I hope Barry knows himself. I'm going to say Barry Geraghty's had consecutive winners of the Cheltenham Festival.
Go high, Rish, go high.
14 years in a row?
Not far off. 18 since 2002. He's ridden a winner every year at the Cheltenham Festival. That is 43.
That's impressive.
In total. Rishi, thank you for now. We'll be back to join Rishi.
Well done, Barry.
And on, but Barry Geraghty joins me on the line. Hello, Barry.
Hi, Angus, how are you?
I'm very good, mate. More importantly, how's things with you, your family and your close friends? Everything all right?
Yeah, no, touch wood. Thankfully everyone is okay with everyone close to me and I'm at home here. So it's strange times, obviously, but it's sort of a sacrifice everyone has to make, but hopefully it can come and go.
Indeed. Are you managed to keep yourself fit? Are you riding out at all?
Yeah, no, I'm busy. I have a good few young hands at home, so I'm busy with those. But apart from that, we're in lockdown, so commuting is an option to anyone.
Difficult times, Barry, but it's nice to look back on some stellar moments that you've enjoyed, and 2012 was a really big season for you.
Yeah, no, it was great. Brilliant. I suppose Cheltenham and Aintree, I had lots of good winners at both. It all kept happening in Cheltenham. From, what did we start off with? Was it Sprinter Sacker on the first day in the Arc, I think, and Simon Seek, Baldock, Finians, Rambo, and Liverpool Theatre then with Scott Conor Murphy, his £1 million kilometre.
Yeah, let's have a look at Sprinter winning his Arkle. He must have given you some feel this day. He beat Q-Card by 7 lengths, Barry. Look at him winging the last there. What a machine he was.
Oh, he was something special. And his novice season, that was a brilliant performance in the Arkle. But he won the game Spirit on his third run over fences, breaking the 2-mile track record in Newbury against seasoned horses. And he did it hard on the bridle. He was unbelievable.
His jumping was spectacular at times as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's just so easy for him. He carried it into the fence with so much pace, and he'd so much scope. He's very accurate when he was in close, but he'd pick up a mile away, and he'd give his fences air. He'd give them 5 or 6 inches, no problem, and he'd land away at the far side. Everything was so easy for him. Yeah,
the way he travelled through that Arkle, I don't think I've seen a horse travel as strongly as that in such a good race. It's not like it was a weak Arkle; it was a good race in its own right.
No, it was a good race, but he dismissed the opposition really. But that was him. He was all class. He just oozed it, and he had a great attitude. He loved it. He loved jumping. He loved race, and he was some thrill to ride. Yeah, and
he went on, of course, to win at Aintree after that, Barry, and he did so, and became short price favourite for the champion chase thereafter.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant, and he won well at Aintree as well too. And he was down the fulfilled the championship the following season. I think he won everything the following season.
Yeah, what was his number one asset, Barry? What was the one thing about him, if you had to pinpoint it and say he was special because of this? What was it?
It was just so much class. To be a really good horse, you have to be good at most aspects, and his jumping was brilliant. But a lot of that came from, where he originated from. In Nicholls, he was well taught from the start. Nicholls did a lot of his early schooling as well. When I wasn't always in certain barrels at school because I was living in Ireland the whole time, and commuting. So Nicholls did a lot of his early schooling and did a brilliant job on him. So, all those things, but his class, he had so much ability. So very few horses could walk with him. He just had natural speed. He obviously got 2 mile really well, and he even won over 2.5. But his jumping was brilliant, and then he had no problem with jumping at the speed that he could go.
Spectacular racehorse. Must be just about the best you've ever ridden. Tell us, Barry, a little bit about Finian's Rainbow. You won the Arkle on the Tuesday in 2012, and then on the Wednesday you won on Finian's Rainbow, taking the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Tell us about this, sizing Europe here.
Yeah, and Finian's a very good horse. He went on and won an Aintree as well, I think. He's a very good horse. He was second in the Arkle the year before to Captain Chris, I think it was. And he ran too keen in the Arkle, really. He won an Aintree after that, but he ran too keen in the Arkle would have, cost him a lot of his chance out of life. But just with the year under his belt, he was more relaxed. He had a good gallop, followed phasing Europe, and just tracked him and challenged after we bypassed the last, which we weren't sure we were going to bypass that jump. There was a bit of confusion between the new rule and the old rule when half the fence could be built off, so there was a bit of confusion there with myself and Andrew Lynch, but really, Andrew made the right choice anyway, and I just agreed with him, and we both bypassed it, and Finian's got his head in front of our count.
Yeah, was he a better? I know he won over further at Aintree next time. Was he better at 2 miles though? Because he did travel so strongly, didn't he?
He did, but a lot of that was just because he was keen. He was comfortable at 2 miles. He won the Desert Orchid in Kenton, so quick 2 miles, but that was probably sharper than ideal for him. So I'd say a stiff 2 or 2.5 in Aintree worked well. But no, he was a very good horse.
Yeah, that 2012 was his best year. Things didn't go right for him there from thereafter, but it's in the book. It's in the book how good he was at Cheltenham and Aintree.
Exactly. Unfortunately, they don't all last forever at the top, but he had a very good season that year.
He did, yeah. He never won another race after 2012. Let's talk about Bobsworth, a horse who's very close to your heart. He went on to win a Cheltenham Gold Cup, but in 2012 it was the RSA for you, Barry.
Yeah, beat First Lieutenant in a good finish, and obviously First Lieutenant went on and beat plenty. I think we were first and second in the Hennessy the following season, and both of them now won his Gold Cup. But he his novice chase here, he beat Q Card first time out in Newbury over 2.5, I think it was, and he got beaten at Christmas or so. He won that race before Cheltenham and came back and won in Cheltenham. He didn't go to Aintree, and Aintree with a bit of track, and he came back and did all he did the following season. But no, he was another brilliant horse. Unlike Sprinter, he wasn't a big flamboyant jumper. He didn't walk to an amazing level at home, but he was one of those fellas who wouldn't show you an awful lot, but then bring him to the track and he'd step up to his game. He beat Rocker and Ruby over 2.5 million as a novice hurdler, and he went down and won a champion hurdle, obviously. So he was a smart horse back in trip as well as he was when he went up in trip.
Yeah, he just struck me there, watching that footage there of him winning the RSA. What a straightforward and really tough little horse he was. He stretched his neck out and try for you all the way to the line. Yeah,
exactly, he was. But he probably, as I say, he lacked scope. So you rode a conservative race on him. And you just crept around and you saved his, because he had a good finishing kick, and he showed that when he won the Gold Cup. He had a good kick. He won it by 7 lengths in the deck. So if you just roll him conservatively, deliver him late, he'd load them a lot for them when you need him.
When you say he lacked scope, did you mean you wouldn't necessarily keep asking him for a big one? You just let him hack round, really?
Yeah, you just try and get a rhythm going of measured jumping rather than anything too exuberant. Mm-hmm. So you want to go into the well. You're letting them just get A to B, nothing too fancy, and in doing that, you're conserving and waiting for the final kick.
Yeah, he'd always find for you, that is for sure. Tell us a bit about Riverside Theatre winning the Ryanair Chase. Now, many people will say that this was the ride of the festival, Barry, from yourself, on a horse who really was never really going throughout the contest and made a number of errors too.
Yeah, he had a tendency to race like that. He's a horse who suffered from ulcers, and he was very good when he was fresh, but he had a tendency to race behind the bridle like that, and when he was behind the bridle he could make mistakes, and he was struggling all the way. And I remember probably going to the last ditch, and Sam Twiston Davis was on Little Josh, I think it was, and I could just see Sam was beginning to tread water, and although he was treading lots of water at that stage, I knew he was, every time I gave him a kick or a squeeze, there was a bit more there, so I had a bit to work on, and I gave Sam a shove, and he gave me a bit of room, and I got into a position then where I could attack, but until that point I was behind the pace, I was crowding out of it, but the winning of the race for me was when Sam just gave me that little bit of room, and as soon as he got that gap, he got into a challenging position that he could walk from, and he finished off really well to beat Albertus One. I think he was going for a hat-trick in the race. Yeah, you beat him half a length. I think there was a really good jump that he put in Riverside at 4 out, and from there on in he started to race home quite strongly, but he'd been behind the bridle well before that. Yeah, no, he was off the by the long run. I think it was just before that 4 out that Sam gave me a bit of room, and that made the difference. Yeah, beating Alberta's Run, Medemy and Captain Chris, Riverside Theatre. That was some ride, Barry. It was a Wichita lineman style ride, really, on Riverside Theatre. Tell us about Simon Sig. He's no longer with us, of course. Very sad that we lost him. But he was a brilliant horse. We're looking at him winning the Neptune Novices hurdle over 2 miles 5 when he beat Felix Younger by 7 lengths. But he was some machine. He was. He's a very good horse, and he bolted up that day. Had a good book of rides into the meeting, and with Sprinter and Simon Simon was he was one of the bankers. He was him and Sprinter. Nicky was afraid to go up the duels together. They were so good that they could literally annihilate each other. There was nothing could walk with either horse. But he's a horse who never really got the opportunity to fulfill his potential. He won the Arc in the following season, and he more or less didn't much of him after that. But he was an exceptional horse, and he showed it that day in the Neptune that he absolutely bolted up.
Yeah, hardly came off the bridle, really. You just nudged him out hands and heels in the closing stages, and he went on to Aintree and won after that as well. And we can see, looking at it again, the Mersey Novices hurdle, how well he's travelling.
Yeah, no, he like Sprinter, he was class. He was a good jumper too. He was a horse who he could have been the real deal, but he won twice at the festival, but I suppose he had the potential to go all the way to the top, and just unfortunately through problems he didn't make it there, but we had some great days with him.
Yeah, some brilliant days. He was just so impressive at Cheltenham, and this was so taking to the eye, and he won in quite a good time as well, beating Super Duty and Baby Shine. He was some horse. Let's ask you about Oscar Whiskey as well. He was a different type of horse, but he was very good over 2.5 miles, wasn't he? And he won the Aintree hurdle a couple of times, Barry.
Yeah, he did. He won it twice. I think he beat Charles Dark both times. He was a very good horse as well. I suppose there wasn't a race for him in Cheltenham. He ran in the 2.5 when that was novice chaser. And he fell early. So the one time he got a 2.5 mile race in Cheltenham, he wasn't checked out of the first or second, I think it was. So he didn't get to see how he'd fare. But he was a very good horse at Aintree. He was a very good horse in the middle distance races in Cheltenham during the season. So he was placed in the Champion Hurdle. He was placed in the Supreme. He was a very good horse. But Aintree, the 2.5 mile in Aintree worked really well for him.
Yeah, it did. Spot on for him. He beat Rock on Ruby, actually. He'd won the Champion Hurdle, hadn't he, at Cheltenham? He beat Rock on Ruby there in the Aintree Hurdle. He finished back in 3rd place. Some fantastic horses then that you rode in 2012. Barry, I suppose Sprinter and Simon Sig, the top two.
Yeah, and sure, Bob Lord as well. It's hard to leave him out. But yeah, no, some brilliant horses. Great days, and that was good fun.
Yeah, and you brought up your 1,000th winner in Ireland, didn't you, in 2012 as well? You rode a treble at Cork to bring up 1,000 winners over there.
Right, well, haven't slipped by me, but yeah, no, it was a good year, so.
It was, to be fair to you, Barry, it was a long time ago.
yeah, I struggle to remember last week.
You're not the only one. Thanks very much, mate. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll hope to see you back in the saddle on a racecourse very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.
Barry Geraghty, thanks to him for his thoughts on all of those top-class winners that he rode at Cheltenham and Aintree in 2012. Let's go back to Rishi and have a chat to him about Barry Geraghty in general, Rishi. I mean, this man is ageless, isn't he? 4 winners at the Cheltenham Festival this year, and in 2012 when Nicky Henderson had 7 winners at the festival, Barry just reigned supreme.
Outstanding. And I think the great thing about Barry Geraghty this year, if we were entirely honest, Captain, there are 1 or 2 people that are probably questioning Barry Geraghty's position amongst the elite. But he proved at this year's Cheltenham Festival that he still belongs up there with some fabulous rides. And just going back to Sprinter Sacre, and I'm going to credit an old pal of mine, Steve Taylor, who did an interview with Barry Geraghty before Sprinter Sacre ever ran over fences, before he made his chasing debut at Doncaster in 2011. And he actually said to me after the interview, he said Barry Geraghty thinks this might be one of the best horses he's ever ridden over fences. Whatever he'd seen, the schooling that Nico de Boinville had done and all the work that they'd put into him, they were pretty confident before he appeared over fences at Doncaster in 2011 that this was the real deal over the bigger fences. Yes, he'd already showed significant ability over hurdles, but they were spot on. Yeah,
he'd run very well in what proved to be a formful Supreme hurdle, hadn't he? Sprinter Sacre. And he's just about the best 2-mile chaser I've ever seen. Would you agree?
I have a soft spot for Moscow as well.
Yeah.
I think it's always unfair to ask Barry about the 2, but
yeah,
it would be between the 2 of them for me, Moscow and Sprinter. I think Sprinter might just edge it, though.
Yeah, I think so. We ought to remind everybody that AP McCoy was champion jockey in 2012, no surprise there, and that he won the Gold Cup at Cheltenham on Synchronised, who sadly we lost in the Grand National in the very same year. But he stayed on strongly to beat the Giant Bolster this year, coming from some way off the pace in the JP McManus colours.
And a brilliant ride, and a trademark AP McCoy ride as well. It did look as if his chances probably looked slim coming down the hill into the straight, but the way AP galvanised, synchronised, he was obviously a horse that stayed very well with his wins in the Midlands and the Welsh National. He just powered home. Giant Bolster ran really well. Long Run was obviously on the wane slightly, not quite the horse that he had been, and perhaps Synchronised fell in a little bit, but another great ride and another typical AP McCoy success. And there was a bit of a gap between between the 2 Gold Cup wins he'd had.
Yeah, indeed. Synchronised winning for the John Joe O'Neill team. JP McManus, who's got such a tremendous record with horses that run at Cheltenham. He had a really good year this time around. Unfortunately, as I said, we lost Synchronised in the Grand National. I think we're going to have another question for you in a moment, Rishi. We've got a few questions for you as we work our way through
good record
the show
so
today.
Far.
You were pretty close with 14 consecutive winners for Barry Geraghty at the festival. It was 18. You were fairly close. We'll give you a bit more time on this one. Here we go.
Okay.
Big Bucks ran 13 times in France, Riche. That was before joining Paul Nicholls. How many times did he win over in France?
Oh, Captain, how many times Big Bucks won in France? I know more about his career in the UK, obviously. This French record is something that passes me by. I don't think he was that prolific.
Well, that's a good start.
If I remember correctly.
That's a good start.
Twice? 3 times? Twice. I'll go twice.
You're going twice, are you? Rishi, top man. Top man.
Is it?
You've nailed it. Twice. Well done. With Big Bucks in mind, let's talk to Paul Nicholls, who joins us on the phone. Hello, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. How are you bearing up? How are things with you at Ditchett?
Oh, really the same for everybody else. It's difficult, but we're managing. Just routine stuff with the horses, exercising them, looking after the staff, and everybody just getting on with it. As everybody is really in a difficult time. Yeah,
but fit and well going forward, Paul. Let's talk about 2012. What a fantastic year it was for you. You must have really fond memories of it.
Yeah, well, obviously it was a good year. You've seen some of your clips earlier. Big Bucks and Neptune Cologne winning, they were good. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, you were champion trainer that year, of course. Let's talk about Big Bucks and his final World Hurdle win. What are your abiding memories of this horse, Paul?
Well, as always, he gave you a bit of a scare because he didn't do a whole heap in front. But as per always, he just stayed on strongly up that hill. And, you can see him pricking his old ears there. He always just did enough, and just what an amazing horse he was,
Yeah, he was. He was a horse who Ruby Walsh got a particularly good tune out of, didn't he? Ruby seemed to understand him particularly well.
Well, that was the thing. I think you just said it. Ruby understood him, and they got on really well. Yeah, to win 4 World Hurdles is a tough thing to do, and I think probably always be a hard thing to repeat, really. But it was just his forte. He loved jumping hurdles. He hated jumping fences. He was very talented. He just had that huge engine and always stayed on strong. That's from the back of the last of the winning post. He always galloped right through the line. Much
was always made of this sort of flat spot or mythical flat spot that he used to hit, but he never really looked in much trouble in the Grade 1s that he won, really, did he?
I think he was just kidding us a bit, really.
Yeah.
Ruby knew him better than anybody. He used to kid the other pilots a little bit what was going on, but that was just him, really, because he was just travelling so well. He got a little bit lazy, and when you needed to, he turned it on and always galloped on well.
Yeah, we highlighted his record in France, Paul, before you got him. He only won a couple of times, so it did take him a while to find his feet, but you obviously found the key to him. Well, it was quite interesting. It was Clifford and I only looking a couple of days ago, and it was astonishing to think he'd run 13 times before we bought him. We had him as a 4-year-old. And I remember just happened to be watching Otoy one afternoon, Sunday in June, and I saw him win, and I just rang Anthony Bromley up and said, that Big Bucks looks a bit smart. Why haven't we sort of made any inquiries? He said, well, I don't think he's for sale. I said, well, see if you can make him for sale. and the rest is history. Andy Stewart kindly bought him. We bought him obviously we thought first of all to go and be an Arkle horse and be a chaser, but it didn't take long to work out after schooling him once that was going to be a bit of a dream. when you said you thought he was smart when you saw him racing in France, what attracted you to him? What did you think was so good about him? Because his record wasn't great.
Well, he just got better and better. I mean, I actually think, I'm right in saying that, I was told that he actually ran his first run, he wasn't even 3 years old. And he just obviously progressed. I think the race he won possibly was the race Courto started one before we bought him.
Right.
And he just looked impressive. He was obviously getting stronger and, maturing. And his last run, I think, in France was very good. And I just thought, wow, he's going to make some sort of chaser. And, he was a big, strong, scopy horse that we thought was going to be, a chaser. That's what we bought him for. Not to do what he did, but it just, he just didn't like jumping fences. That's why we went back over hurdles. Yeah,
it turned out to be the best staying hurdler we've ever seen. Would you agree with that?
Well, he's been one of the best, obviously. The wind falls very hard. And I actually think, and they all say Courto Star and Denman were amazing horses, which they were. I think if anyone said what horse I trained that had the most ability over the years, it was probably him. I think if he'd have jumped fences like Courto or Denman had, well, it would have been an interesting time with Courto around at the same time, but it would have been he would have been like very near unbeatable if he jumped fences like we thought. Obviously he didn't, so he went down the hurdle route, which is, as it was with Courto being about in Denman at the same time, it was a blessing in disguise. And I remember discussing it with Andy, saying I was thinking of going over hurdles after we had mishap in the Hennessy. I know Andy thought I was mad, but agreed to let me get try him in the Cleveland, and just the rest was history. Yeah,
he never looked back thereafter, did he? Did he show you loads at home, or was he quite lazy?
No, he never showed anything at home. He was just like quite a lot of those good workmanlike at home.
Yeah,
he was a disaster schooling because he didn't enjoy it at home and he wasn't very athletic. But on the racetrack, he had an engine, which he just stayed really strong as he got sort of into being 6 years old. I think he won the world hurdle first time when he was 6 years old. And as he got stronger, he stayed on stronger, and he was just a real good stayer.
Yeah, fantastic racehorse. As was Rock on Ruby. You won the champion hurdle with this fella in 2012. Paul, just tell us a little bit about him. Was he best fresh, this fella?
Well, as you well know, at the time, after the foot and mouth, Richard Barber and I sort of set up a satellite yard, and he was all down at Zebra, overseen by Harry.
Yeah.
So it was a team thing, really, and Harry deservedly took a lot of credit because he really trained him.
Yeah.
Between us all, we planned a routine, and it was a good team effort. But Harry got the best out of him and deserved the credit for it, really. He was second the year before in the 2.5 mile novice. Often those horses do win a champion hurdle, and he stayed on really strongly. This was his day,
Yeah, it was a pretty good champion hurdle, wasn't it? Overturned back in second place. You had Hurricane Fly, who was the odds-on favourite third. Binocular back in fourth. It was no fluke whatsoever. It was a really good performance.
Yeah, he was a good horse, and he kept on winning races. He wasn't the biggest in the world, hence he didn't ever take to jumping fences, but he was a very good hurdler. And as I said, Harry always had him right on the day, and he was another good class horse that year.
Yeah, well, you had plenty of them. It was a golden era with big bucks, Denman, Courto in there, Rock on Ruby there, and of course Neptune Collonges, who you won the Grand National with, your first ever Grand National success, and heart-stopping moments on the run-in, Paul, I would imagine.
Well, it was a bit, really. I mean, he was an amazing horse because he ran some fantastic races, won some really good races through his career, and he was a proper horse, And I know John's probably watching that now. He watches this race probably twice a week and loves watching it. And he was 11 now. Then you think he'd been pacing those Gold Cups, won Irish Lexus and Punchestown Gold Cups. He was a brilliant horse, but always felt this race would suit him, and it was only just far enough for him, really, wasn't it?
Only
Stayed
just.
on really, really strongly, up on the line, only just, but there's only one winner, and he was first on that line, just stayed on really strongly. And, you think he carried plenty of weight. I think he carried 11 stone 7. It was a great weight carrying performance, and there we are, look at that. You watch his older years, he half knew he'd got up on the line.
Yeah, Daryl Jacob really strong on him, just getting up to beat Sunny Hill Boy. There you are. I mean, what did that mean to you and your yard and your family and everybody around you to win the Grand National?
Well, it's a completely different race. It was brilliant. It was fantastic for the Hells family, who after a lot of persuading and a lot of Harkett let me run him. And what a fantastic ride Daryl gave him. He hadn't really ridden the horse much because Ruby had been riding him, and he just gave him, the best ever ride. He listened to what I'd said. I'd helped him out in thoughts on the horse, and he was just a brilliant ride on him. And I always did say to him, if you're in the first 10 with the circuit today, you can win. Just don't give up. He'll keep galloping. And he just gave him a perfect ride. and it was good for everybody involved, obviously, the whole team.
Yeah, no, I guess it's it's nice to have winners at the Cheltenham Festival. Of course it is.
Yeah.
But to win the Grand National is just something different, isn't it? Something special.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see, the team, there's Dan Skelton and Harry Fry, who've since they've gone and done brilliantly training. Yes. Everybody was involved. It was, good for the whole, everybody in, Team Ditchard, I call it at the time, to be involved with horses like that was just fantastic. And it takes a big team to get them right on the day, and everybody played their part. But just to win a national was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely superb. Let's talk about some other features from 2012 and the Betfair Chase and the success of Silviniaco Conti. He was at this stage of his career a rising star for you, and tactically a good ride from Ruby Walsh.
Well, yeah, Ruby, he was always good on most of these horses. But, having Courtauld retired by now, I think, and have another horse come along after him in Silviniaco Conti was fantastic. And, he was really good on his day. He won some really good races. Probably didn't quite have the class of Courtauld and the scope and the size, but he gave everything and was a proper horse. Yeah,
I think it was this day in the Betfair Chase when Ruby decided to make the running. Nobody wanted to get on with it, so Ruby just decided to set his own pace out in front. He worked a treat.
I think he'd done that the year before with Courtauld, if I remember, and made all. When they're fit and when they jump, it's probably the best place to be honest with you. And it was great to have another horse like this. And, Conti won 2 King Georges as well. He won at Aintree a couple of times. He was a proper horse as well.
Yeah, what sort of horse was he at home, Paul?
Well, he wasn't very big. He didn't have a show too much at home.
No.
But, once you got to know him, he had lots of ability and was tough. And, he just lacked a bit of scope, but he made up for it with sheer guts.
Yeah, indeed. Let's talk about Alpha Off as well, if we could, who won the Paddy Power Gold Cup for you. He'd been a good hurdler, hadn't he? And he took to fences pretty well.
Yeah, well, I think the Supreme he won was probably one of the best for a long time. He actually beat Q Card and Sprinter Sacra.
Yeah.
That was one hell of a Supreme novice hurdler. I don't think he probably took the fences quite as good as he might have looked on winning that Supreme that day. He wasn't quite the biggest, scopiest horse in the world, but he won plenty of good races. He won this race this day. He won plenty, but I think that Supreme Novice hurdle that day was probably one of his best runs of his career, really.
Yeah, that's just about the hottest Supreme Novice hurdle we've ever seen, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, it was a proper race, but he won plenty of races, and to win this race was good. We also won it for John with Union East, but Alpha Off is a proper horse as well. Just lacked that little bit of scope to be what I call a proper Grade 1 chaser at the end. He won us plenty of races.
Yeah, it was an interesting year for you, wasn't it? In that it was almost the end of an era, because Denman had retired in 2011 and Courtauld retired this year in 2012 when Ruby pulled him up in the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And of course Big Bucks won his final World Hurdle. So the old guard were sort of on their way out a little bit.
Well, they were, and that was why having a horse like Silviniaco Conti coming through was just like, you couldn't really believe our luck, really, because the older warriors were, had come to their end. They've been fantastic in running all those Gold Cups over the years and the World Hurdles. You need horses to follow on, and that was almost an era of a lifetime. We're never going to have a yard full of horses like that.
No, I was going to say that you've had plenty of good horses since, but they were an exceptional bunch, weren't they?
Yeah, and you throw in Mastermind with them as well.
Yes.
That was just like they were obviously awesome horses, but you keep looking forward, and Conti coming along was to look forward for the next 2 or 3 years, and obviously going on and winning plenty of King Georges, which is what we like doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, great stuff, great memories, a fantastic year for you. May the winners continue to flow once we start racing once again. Hopefully it won't be too long. Thank you for joining us.
Anytime, my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Paul Nicholls talking about what happened in 2012. Big Bucks, Rock on Ruby, Neptune Collonges, Silviniaco Conti and Alpha Off, and the retirement of Courtauld Star as well. Let's go back to Rishi and see what's going on. How's things there, Rishi? All quiet?
It's quiet, but people are coming home now, so I've got company. He's watching you. You can probably just see Winston, my dog. He's checking you out on screen, Captain, so don't let him down.
Can't quite see him. I'm sure before the end of the programme he'll edge his way in. Oh, there he is. There he is. Looks very chilled. Very chilled indeed. Paul Nicholls, what a trainer he is, and that was 2012 was some year for him.
It was some year for him. Obviously, as he mentioned, Courto Star retired at the end of, or he was pulled up in the Gold Cup after those magnificent successes in the Betfair Chase and then the King George. The one thing Paul Nicholls has always spoken about is turning over horses. Throughout his career, he's always talked about getting better horses and moving on those that perhaps have done their service. Obviously, finding good homes for them is important. But that was probably the end of the great era, the likes of, the big bucks, his final World Hurdle win, Courto retired. And then along comes Silviano Conti, not quite, as he said, at that level that the great ones were, but a very good horse indeed. And it's interesting to see now that Paul Nicholls has come again in 2020. What he's done, he's unearthed a lot of young, good horses that the next couple of seasons will prove quite exciting for him. You think of some of the young hurdlers, obviously Solo, that horse that won at Kempton just before the lockdown, looked fabulous. Couple of horses that, and he's got more that I can't think off the top of my head, but he's got a host of young horses that you're very excited about what the Paul Nicholls team will be able to do in the next coming seasons. But it's his MO. Turning over, looking for the next stars, building his team up, and he looks like he's doing it once again. Yeah,
this really was a golden era, really, 2011, 2012, that we're talking about for the Paul Nicholls yard. Of course, with the retirement of Courto, Rishi, this left a little bit of a gap, a bit of a gaping hole as far as top-class staying chasing was concerned, and it was filled by Long Run when he won the King George at Kempton under Sam Whaley-Cohen.
Yeah, this was a really attritional King George. Champion Court in front as we join it. Long Run was an outstanding horse, and you think of how precocious he was as well. I thought, when you look back at some of those French horses, how well they did so young. Obviously, the schooling and the training for French horses is very different. So good horses behind, and it looked as if Long Run had been in front for a while. And Captain Chris was going to come and get him, but he battled back and he was magnificent, and he had a tremendous record. And obviously 12 months prior to the success, he was firmly put in his place by Courto Star, who was winning the King George for the fifth time. But a magnificent horse that Long Run was, and yet another very good horse in 2012 over fences and over obstacles for Nicky Henderson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 2012 was a stellar year, not only for Paul Nicholls but for Nicky as well. You can see what you're referring to there. A bit of an awkward jump at the last, but boy did he rally to good effect. He was a very strong stayer, this horse.
He really was. And in fact, when you think back to that Gold Cup where he got the better of Denman and Courto Star, they looked like they had him in trouble. Turning into the straight, they looked like they'd got Long Run in trouble, but he actually stayed on best from those two horses who'd proved themselves in the 3 Gold Cups that had won together, how strong they were up the hill, but he was stronger than them. He had some real talent, because of course he was good enough to win over 2 miles as well. So some horse, and again, another tremendous racehorse from that golden era, as you mentioned.
Quick personal reflection. I think we saw you there in the footage there, Rishi. Was it you at Aintree? Interviewing Daryl Jacob after he'd pulled up on Neptune Collonges after winning the National. What are your reflections on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I must admit, when they hit the line, I wasn't sure that he'd got there. I thought maybe Sunny Hill Boy had hung on. But obviously, once the result had been announced, Daryl Jacob, who, of course, when you think back to his relationship with the Paul Nicholls team and John Hales, that meant a lot. A massive, obviously every Grand National means a lot to them, but the faith that the Nicholls team had and John Hales had in Daryl Jacob, that was what I was most struck about. He was overcome with the emotion of the success, and he was really thankful for all the support that had given him. I remember him making those points in particular in the aftermath of that success. And of course that success just helped Paul Nicholls edge the championship over Nicky Henderson.
Yeah. Great for you to be right on the spot there, Rishi, as ever, to interview Daryl as he came back in on Neptune Collonges. So that's jumping from 2012. We'll turn our attentions to the flat in a moment or two. But we've got a question, first of all, for Rishi. We'll give him a bit of time to think about this, and then we'll come back to him in a moment or two. How many Group 1 races did Joseph O'Brien win during 2012? We'll give Rishi a moment or two to think about it, and we'll come back in a moment.
At Racing TV, 100% of our profits go back into racing. Thank you for supporting the sport that we all know and love.
The Emerald Isle. Racing is so much more. These guys are braver than me. A mid-weekend in the Wild West. The race that stops the nation. Head to racingbreak.com to find out more.
Racing TV Travel Club offer time in partnership with Racing Breaks, and it's for the Randox South Grand National Festival of 2021. And that's to book an overnight package for the Grand National 2021 with a £25 refundable deposit and get £25 off with code RTV25. And to find out more, visit racingtv.com/travel club.
Let's go back to Rishi. He'll have had time to Google the answer by now, one would have thought, to the question that we set before we went to the break. Group 1 winners for Joseph O'Brien in 2012, Rishi?
I'm not cheating, but I'm going to go with 10.
Yeah. Steward's inquiry, I think, Rishi. Steward's inquiry has been called.
This is 10. Genuine guess.
It was
Genuine
10.
Guess.
It was 10.
I do remember he had obviously he had Camelot obviously gave him 3, and I know he won the Irish Guineas, but obviously Aidan O'Brien, you're riding for Ballydoyle. I'm going to guess there are a few others chucked in, so I'll go with that. Yeah.
Tell you what, Rishi, you don't need to guess. I'm going to ask him himself because he's on the phone. Hi there, Joseph. Joseph O'Brien, welcome to the show. How are you, first of all? How are things at your yard?
Hi, Angus. Yeah, everything is good. Obviously, there are strange times for, I suppose, everyone all over the world, but we're coping as best we can.
Yeah, just keeping the horses in regular exercise and doing the best you can.
Yeah, exactly. Just in routine work, and once there's I guess, in theory, we might be racing at the end of April, but if it looks like we might be racing then we can step up the work closer to the time, or if it gets delayed further, which hopefully it won't, but obviously is a possibility too, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Very tricky times for us all. 2012, Joseph, of course, you were in the saddle then. You weren't training. Let me just remind you of some of the winners you rode. You rode Camelot to win the 2,000 Guineas. You rode St Nicholas Abbey to win the Coronation Cup. Camelot won the Derby. So You Think won the Prince of Wales Stakes. Celebration won the QE2. Kings Barnes the Racing Post Trophy, and Irish Derby with Camelot as well. It was a big year for you. You were champion jockey as well.
Yeah, it was a great year, Angus. It's a good job you named them off there, because off the top of my head I wouldn't have been able to remember. But yeah, no, it was a great year, and obviously a couple of unbelievable race horses there. I suppose Acceleration was very unlucky to bump into Franklin so much, and I suppose St Nick and Camelot. So you think they're all special horses.
Yeah, what does Camelot mean to you? We're going to have a look at his 2,000 Guineas success. Winning for your father, Aidan, of course. Where does this horse stand in your affections?
Yeah, he was an extremely good racehorse. I had a couple of incredible days on him, obviously, here and in Epsom later in the year. So, it was he was a great racehorse, and a dream to be associated with a horse like him. Yeah, indeed. He had enough speed to win a Guineas, Joseph, but perhaps stamina was his greatest asset, but he wasn't devoid of a decent turn of foot. Oh, absolutely not. I mean, he came from last at halfway to win a Guineas over a mile. So he was probably speed was his main forte, and he was an incredible racehorse, Angus. Yeah, let's have a look at the Derby as well that you won on him. He was impressive this day. You can see yourself down the outside there, coming to challenge on this fella. Just tell us how the race went for you. It went pretty smoothly. There wasn't a huge field, and the main objective was that he settled. Obviously, his first time going the distance, and I suppose the only anxious moment throughout the race was when Ryan kicked on. I think it was Astrology, and he had won very easily in Chester. I had a look up, and he looked like he was gone maybe for a second, but no, Camelot, he got to the line very strongly, quickened up well, and again he came from last, I think, that day to win. He was an outstanding horse.
Yeah, that was a very, very impressive success. He beat Main Sequence by 5 lengths. Main Sequence went on to win a host of Grade 1s when he went out to the United States of America. So it was some performance. And just tell me about how important it felt to you to win the Derby for your dad.
Yeah, it was incredible. Because I think up until that day, Dad had a number of placed horses in the years previously. It had been a good few years before since we had won the race. So there was obviously, he was a very sharp price, and there was plenty of pressure. But no, that was a special day, Angus.
Yeah, there was talk after the race, Joseph, of him going to take on Frankel, a potential clash with Frankel, but it never happened because you boldly thought that a Triple Crown bid was the way to go.
Yeah, obviously, the Triple Crown would have been an amazing achievement, and I'm sure it will be done again at some stage. But it takes a very special horse. It was gutting really to get it so close without and not to achieve it with Camelot. But that's life, and like I say, he was a special racehorse. But I suppose the heavy ground in the Curragh, and then a tough race in the Ledger probably left its mark a little bit on him afterwards. But he was a special horse on his day. Yeah, we never saw the sort of the Camelot that we saw in the Derby ever again. Let me just go back to his defeat in the Ledger by Enki, the Godolphin horse. Just take me through that race, Joseph. I mean, do you feel that you were a bit unlucky? Do you feel things didn't quite go your way? Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I felt I was a bit keen throughout. I was quite tight up against the rail, and in every race he had ran in previously in his career, he'd pretty much come from last to win, and that was the first time that he really had horses around him, and we were stuck down the rail, but we're of a slow pace, and he was running keen enough all the way. I travelled into the straight, and I got a pretty good run through and a clear shot at them, but I didn't really get there in time. Listen, I don't know if I should have held him up further and made him settle more, or ride him handier, but having won the Guineas in the Derby, it would have been very hard to jump and ride him in the first 3 or 4 going 1 mile and 6 around Doncaster, you know. So in hindsight, it's a great thing. I'd love to have another go at it, but that's life, and we learn and move on, you know. Yeah, and also, I guess now with your trainer's hat on, you'd appreciate that it probably was a pretty tough ask to go and win a Guineas, go and win a Derby, win an Irish Derby in very soft ground, and then go and try and win a Ledger as well. That you've got to be some tough horse to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Nijinsky may have been the last horse to do it. So that'll just tell you how tough an ask it is, because something like that would be the dream with pretty much every middle distance horse that goes into training every year, you know. Yeah. 1970, Nijinsky won the Triple Crown. Let's move on from Camelot then, because he's become a pretty good sire since he retired. But Coronation Cup success on St Nicholas Abbey must have been sweet. Yeah, that was great. St Nick horse was very, very good to me, and he was always he was extremely good around Epsom. He I think he might have won three coronations, and that was he dropped my stick there. I didn't need it, thankfully. I wasn't going to mention that. No. But yeah, I think that was the same day as Camelot, so that was a very special day to ride 2 Group 1 winners. He was a super tough horse, wasn't he? He really was. Yeah, he was. He was a great horse. He did great cruising speed, stayed very well, and he had lots of pace. So yeah, no, he was a very special horse.
Yeah, he gave you a Breeders' Cup winner as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. That was an incredible day. To ride at the Breeders' Cup at the time was unbelievable, and from the win there was incredibly special. Angus, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just tell us what sort of a horse he was like to ride, Joseph.
Yeah, he was straightforward enough horse. Obviously, being by Manchu, he was a little bit sharp, but he was very straightforward to ride in a race. I probably took a couple of goes on him to get the hang of him, but he had a great cruising speed, and at a mile and a half, the faster he went, the better he was really.
Yeah, just the way you're talking about him, it just sounds to me as if he's the sort of a horse who's very close to your heart, one that you remember very fondly.
Yeah, very much so, Angus. I suppose those horses that you have a relationship with over a number of years, you always would build up a fondness for them, for sure. Yeah,
tell me about So You Think, who came over to your father's yard from Bart Cummings. He was a very good horse, of course, in Australia, and your dad got hold of him and won 5 Group 1 races with him, and the Nicholls Gold Cup and the Prince of Wales' Stakes were 2 races he won in 2012.
Yeah, he had a huge following, obviously coming from Australia, being a top class racehorse down there. He won the Eclipse Series, winning the Eclipse. But yeah, he was an incredibly good horse, a big, strong, powerful horse, and he was hardy and didn't like to back down in a fight. He was very, very good in Ascot that day. He travelled and quickened up with a really good turn of foot, and obviously he won the Tattersall's Gold Cup incredibly easy that year. Yeah, because he came over from Bart Cummings' yard with a huge reputation, so there was a bit of pressure involved with him. Yeah, there was, as there is with all good horses, but he had a big engine, and I think we might have lost Joseph. We'll try and get him back, because I really want to ask him about Celebration. He was the last horse I wanted to talk to Joseph about. Celebration, of course, knocked heads with Frankel continually throughout his career until in 2012 he was able to take the QE2 in impressive fashion in a fast time at Ascot. We're trying to get Joseph back, but we can go to Rishi and see if the dog's behaving itself at Rishi Towers. Good to hear from Joseph. He talks very well and passionately and knowledgeably about the horses that he rode. And it just strikes me, Rishi, that, you know, as a jockey and now as a trainer, he really does think about it, and he really did work things out when he was in the saddle.
I think that was in evidence with his rides on Camelot, in particular, the races that we've seen, the Guineas and the Derby. Certainly he rode that horse both times with a lot of thought. Certainly I thought in the Guineas he rode the horse as Aidan O'Brien would have wanted him to prepare himself for the season ahead. He settled him out of the back, made his ground up through the race, and got the better of the French challenger French 15 late on. And then in the Derby he gave himself plenty of time in the race, dropped him out of the back. Astrology went on and led for a very, very long time, and Stable Companion kicked, but Joseph never panicked. And I remember speaking to Willie Carson, who of course had an illustrious record around Epsom himself, and Willie was really impressed that day about Joseph's ride and how cool as a 19-year-old he was on Camelot, joining an illustrious list of people in their teen years, obviously Lester Piggott, Walter Swinburne, Mikel Barcelona, quite outstanding. Yeah, Rishi, we're just going to leave you there because we've got Joseph back on the line. Sorry, Joseph, we lost you for a moment or two. We've been talking about So You Think. I wanted to have a word about Celebration, really, who had his big day in the sun at Ascot in the QE2 Stakes in 2012. Yeah, he did, and he was very impressive that day. Really travelled and quickened up very well. Like you say, he was unlucky to bump into Frankel for so many times along throughout his career, but yeah, he was really, really good this day. He travelled so well and didn't have a moment's worry through the race, and as soon as we pressed the button down past the furlong marker, he quickened up very well. It was a great turn of foot, and it was a very quick miler, really, you know. Yeah, it was a hugely impressive performance, beating Cityscape. It's really good to review that. Tactically, it was quite interesting, Joseph, because you had him on the rail. You travelled strongly
throughout, but you decided to angle out to just make sure you got a run, presumably because you had so much horse under you.
Yeah, he had lots of speed. Just had to wait for a little bit of room, and he was even a horse that you know, he probably could have even been very competitive in the big 6 furlong sprints through the year.
Really?
Remember, he was second to Frankel at Royal Ascot that year. I think that might have been the year that Black Caviar won the sprint, and we were thinking that maybe we should have had a crack at her. That's the kind of pace that he had, you know. Did
you actively consider with your dad? Did you chat about taking on Black Caviar?
Oh yeah, it was definitely considered, and I suppose the 2 races that he was going for was he was going to meet Frankel or Black Caviar, you know. So that it was they're two incredible horses really, and but yeah, he was a great racehorse, and he was a joy to ride.
Yeah, no, he really was. It was a sensational performance that in the QE2 stakes. So we've looked at a lot of good horses that you rode, Joseph. Is there one horse that you'd like to tell us about that you thought was the best that you rode, the one that you enjoyed riding most?
Yeah, it's very, very hard to compare horses across you know, different years and that. But like I said, Camelot was a joy to ride. He had so much class, and he used to give you an incredible feel through a race. So yeah, I wouldn't mind sitting on him again. And you know, I think that he won the Race and Post Trophy was incredible, and even the Guineas and the Derby, he was very, very good on those days.
Well, hopefully you'll get your hands on plenty of his progeny. Have you got a fair few Camelots in the yard at the moment?
Yeah, we've been. He had an extremely good start to his stud career. Obviously, we were very lucky to have the Trobe that won the Irish Derby by Camelot. So we most certainly get our hands on as many of them as we can.
Joseph, to what extent do you miss race riding?
I don't miss riding really much at all, Angus, to be honest. I loved it, and I really enjoyed every minute of it, and I'd love to be able to do it again. But obviously the weight struggles as well have to be taken into account, and I don't miss that side of it at all. I was very fortunate to ride amazing horses, and I would love to do it again, but I'm very, very fortunate to be in the position that I have some lovely horses to train, and I'm being supported by some of the best owners in the world, and we have a great team of lads, and I love getting up to go and see the horses work every day and meet everyone. So I'm very, very lucky to be in that position, and long may it last.
Absolutely, Joseph. I echo those thoughts. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It was great to reflect on your 2012 here with us. Continued good health, stay safe, and I hope you and everybody around you come out of this unscathed, and we'll see you on the racecourse soon. Thank you very much.
Please, God. Thanks very much, Angus.
Thank you, Joseph. Good to hear from Joseph O'Brien, wasn't it? Talking at length about some of his big winners in 2012. Let's go back to Rishi for a moment or two. We've been just talking about a few of few of Joseph's horses. We need to touch on a few other horses, really. We mentioned Frankel at the top of the show, and we'll just go back to him there in the context of St Nicholas Abbey, because Rishi, that Juddmonte International, I'll always remember St Nicholas Abbey travelling very strongly towards the stand side at York, going really well, and Frankel went past him like he was stood still.
Captain, you called it. You know, I know you'd have studied the time figures for this race. You talk about the substance of what he did this day. You're talking about one of the best performances we've seen from a racehorse in modern times. You highlight St Nicholas Abbey. There was also Farr, who went on to win the Champion Stakes the following season. Top class horses, and he has cruised past them. The way he moved into the race was most majestic, and Stuart Machin's commentary just summed it all up. You know, poetry, majesty, destruction, all in one. Racehorse, just outstanding. That really was the standard setter. I think. I know he won the Queen Anne by a country mile, but I think the performance in the Juddmonte, in terms of the figures and what he did to some top class horses that would have been top class in any era, was something that was almost mind boggling. Yeah, this for me, this was his best day. I think the Queen Anne was a sensational time as well, but I think this was the first time at 1.25 miles, and he was absolutely brilliant. And of course, he backed it up. And you mentioned it earlier on. The Champion Stakes was the pinnacle.
on Champions Day, and he beat the brilliant Cyrus des Aigles, who was probably on the top of his game in 2012, and he beat him in a good tussling ground that was considered possibly a bit too soft for him. You remember that his connection, Sir Henry Cecil, they walked the course beforehand. They were a bit unsure as to whether he should take part, but they let him go, and they were justified in doing so, Rishi.
They were justified. He never let them down, despite challenges. And like I said earlier on, he missed the kick badly this day because he was so relaxed. Then you spoke about the ground. That was really against him, but in favour of Cyrus des Aigles. And Cyrus des Aigles got first run on him, but he cruised into the race. And just for a moment, it looked as if Cyrus des Aigles might battle back, but he'd done enough, Frankel, and he gave everybody what they came to Ascot that day for. And he finished his career unbeaten. The reception, the rapturous reception he received when he came back was something out of the ordinary, and something that no one would ever forget. Anyone who was lucky enough to be at Ascot that day. And Henry Cecil summed it up best when he spoke about the horse after the race, and he said, quite simply, he's the best I've ever had, the best I've ever seen, and I doubt there'll be anything better.
Was it you that interviewed Sir Henry Cecil that day, Rishi? Was it the last time he was interviewed on a racecourse? Was it you on terrestrial TV?
I was lucky enough to interview him on terrestrial television. Yeah, that's the last time. I think that's the last time he did an interview on terrestrial television. And he just before the interview, he actually said, "Don't ask too many questions. Maybe 1, 2 at the most." But I had to think about what would be the best question to ask in that regard if he only wanted to be asked one question. And I just said, "What's the best thing about training Frankel?" And he said, "Well, quite simply, he's the best horse I've ever had, the best I've ever seen, and I think he's the best that there ever will be." So something that I'll never forget.
I think we're playing peekaboo at the moment, Rishi, with Evie.
This is what happens,
your
Captain.
Daughter Evie. Yeah, well,
this is my daughter Evie. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's tough to entertain them in these difficult times when there's no school. So perhaps we'll just let her get on with it and play and enjoy herself. Maybe she wants to talk about black caviar. I don't know, but
this is her room. In fairness,
look, this is the shot. We've got the shot of black caviar narrowly holding on at the royal meeting at Ascot. But she was some mare. She really was, and there were a lot of doubters, and the usual sort of line of, "Oh, well, what's she beaten down under?" But ultimately, she did beat the top class international Ben Battle. He's a brilliant horse in his own right, and she did so very easily in the end. And I think there's no doubt that she was one of the best horses we saw in 2012. She was actually rated the 3rd best horse in the thoroughbred rankings behind Frankel and Cyrus des Aigles. What are your thoughts about Black Caviar?
The most important thing I think about Black Caviar, Captain, is the fact that she made the journey over to Europe. She made the journey over to Ascot, and that meant a lot. And I remember her going around the pre-parade ring at Ascot and being in the pre-parade ring, and watching all the people that had gathered around, obviously all the racegoers there, but then all the people that normally act really cool, like, the Coolmore gang, the Coolmore, the Ballydor, the Godolphin teams. They were all out there with their phones taking pictures of Black Caviar that day that she ran in the Diamond Jubilee. And they were all trying to snap their memento of what was a great occasion. And obviously she had that worrying moment just before the line, but like the best horses, like we spoke about Frankel, when the chips are down, she just did enough. She did what was necessary. She got the job done, despite Luke Nolan having what he described as a brain freeze in the closing stages.
Yeah, she just didn't sparkle quite as much at Royal Ascot as she'd done on a number of occasions down under. I think that would be fair to say, but you can put that down to having to travel, and of course a straight track rather than going around a bend.
Yeah, she had to do different things. The fact that she had to travel and then acclimatise and taking on horses that perhaps might have been, some of them, better than she'd been facing in Australia. Certainly the likes of Moonlight Cloud were top class in any era. And she had them beat comfortably and then just sort of geared down before the end by Luke Nolan, yet she'd done enough. She was an outstanding racehorse of any era. And again, it was a privilege to be there at Ascot that day to see her in the flesh.
Certainly was, yeah. 25 starts, unbeaten in all of them, Rishi, and 15 of them were Grade 1s. I mean, that's a record down under, a record in Australian racing, and I think her record speaks for itself.
Yeah, when we talk about different eras and horses that we compare for the best, she's in the argument. She's clearly in the argument when you talk about the best of all time. And I think one of the things that gives her a little bit of an edge over, say, a horse like Winx, who obviously is one of the greatest of all time, is the fact that she did travel. And that meant quite a lot. And if you compare those two, you'd think, well, hang on a second, one horse actually went and did it somewhere else. So that puts an extra tick in the argument, or an extra credit for Black Caviar in the argument for certainly the best down under. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the fact that she did travel really was really important, and fantastic for Ascot that she did come over. Final question for Rishi. Here we go. After a couple of tough years in 2009, 2010, which profession did James Doyle contemplate moving to? We need a quick answer. Come on, Rishi. Was it plumbing?
Correct. So 3 out of 4 you've got, Rishi, in the questions that we have posed to you today. And with that in mind, James Doyle is on the line. I don't think he's been out plumbing. How are you doing, James? Everything okay?
I'd hoped everyone had forgot about that by now, but there you go. How are you, Angus?
Yes, I'm bearing up all right. Tough times, James. How are things with you?
Yeah, same. Obviously, it's frustrating, but there's more important things in racing, I guess, going on in the world at this stage. So we have to be thankful that we're all well, and lucky that we're in the countryside and the spot we can get out and enjoy the fresh air. Feel sorry for them people that obviously live in the towns in apartments and things like that.
Yeah, and I guess you're being able to get out to ride out most days, are you?
Well, to be honest, I haven't. I went back to Dubai for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't happen. So, with the view of the travelling out there and back, myself and William Buick were just elected to sort of stay quiet for a couple of weeks, just to be on the safe side before we go in. Which there's not a lot happening with the horses aren't doing too much work, so we'll go in probably next week.
Fair enough. Enjoy the rest. Let me talk about 2012. James, we're focusing on that year here today, and it was a year that your career really took off, wasn't it, with the success of Cityscape in the Dubai Duty Free Meydan?
It certainly was. I mean, I went to Dubai. I got offered a job with Drew Salvaratnam and His Highness Sheikh Ahmed. So that started late in 2011 and progressed through to 2012. We had plenty of success, which led me to thankfully get the call up. Obviously, Steve Drown, the regular rider for Roger Charlton, sustained an injury, which led to the ride being free, and I kind of linked up with Roger Charlton quite successfully towards the end of 2011, and thank the Lord, Roger convinced the connections. He thought I was the man for the job, and forever grateful. Really, like you say, it was the moment that really kick-started me on my way. Really.
Yeah, because you bumped into Al Kazim the following year, and things really took off then.
Of course, yeah. We're so lucky to have a horse like him in my first year in the job with Roger Charlton.
Yeah, just take us through the Dubai Duty Free race itself on Cityscape. Just run us from the stalls and tell us how it went.
It couldn't have gone any smoother, really. We were happy enough with our draw. We were somewhere in the middle, I think 7 or 8 or something. We were quite confident with that. We kind of knew the Aim O'Brien horse. I think it was Await the Dawn. We knew that would probably show plenty of speed. We elected to ride him quite forward. So we took a nice tow through the early part of the race. We were able to get in nicely from our draw towards the front of the field, tracked Await the Dawn, and when she started to drop away, I was going so well I didn't want to disappoint him. So on halfway around the turn, I just kept him sort of within his comfort zone, and when I let him go in the straight, he must have found 4 or 5 lengths, really sprinted clear and quickened again near the furlong pole to really seal the race. It was an amazing performance, and although he wasn't fancied for the race as sort of favourite. I think he was about an 8 or 9 to 1 shot. It was difficult because I'd never ridden in a Group 1 race before. I'd flown back, I would say, a couple of weeks before the race to have a ride to give him his last serious bit of work at Kempton. And the piece of work he put in that day, I'd never felt on the back of a horse before. It was just a tremendous piece of work. So strangely enough, I was going into the race quite confident that he would definitely be in the firing line. I'd never ridden in that quality a race before, so it was quite hard to say he would definitely win. But I knew he would definitely be in the forefront towards the finishing line.
Yeah, indeed. It's amazing, really, that he never won again, isn't it, James? To be honest.
I mean, if you look at his record, I remember we went over to Woodbine to take on a certain Wise Dan, giving him weight, which on reflection was quite a tough task. And look, he ran some great races. I mean, I was just watching your interview with Joseph there in Acceleration. He was second behind him in the Group 1 there at over the mile, and his last run in the lock-ins didn't quite go to plan. He was a horse that needed a bit of ease in the ground to show his best. The ground out in Meydan that night was perfect. It was always a good covering of grass out in Dubai and a really good racing surface. But yeah, look, he was second to Acceleration twice. He was obviously a tough horse and had some tough races against Frankel. But yeah, he was just a super horse, and you know he's done well since he's been at stud. He's had a number of stakes performers. He's got a good horse out in Hong Kong and Kying Star, and we had a give and take with William Haggis. So he's progressing nicely as a stallion.
Can you put into words what riding a horse like him to your first Group 1 success does for your confidence?
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, to win your first Group 1 on arguably the world's biggest stage, in front of the world's biggest stadium, it was just unbelievable. I mean, you always dream about those moments as a young boy growing up, when it all clicks into place and it actually does happen. It's quite a strange feeling. You get such a sense of fulfilment, but at the same time, you're kind of thinking, did this actually happen? It was. The next couple of days, it was a complete whirlwind. It was just an amazing feeling. And then when I got back home, like you say, I was so grateful to have a horse like Al Qassim to just keep the whole thing progressing. Really, keep moving forward. And thankfully, it's progressed year on year. And it's nice to be at this stage riding regularly in the top class races on horses that have really good, legitimate chances and being in the hunt for winning these races, really.
It would be fair to say, therefore, that Cityscape in 2012 is one of the most important moments of your career.
I would definitely say so. I've got plenty of pictures around the house of him. I'll be forever thankful to him and obviously Prince Khalid Abdullah, Teddy Grimthorpe, and Roger Charlton. I mean, without Roger Charlton, who knows what may have happened? He picked me up off the sidelines and gave me all these opportunities that I will always be very thankful for that. And working closely with Mr. Charlton was a great experience. It really brought me on in life, not just as a rider, but just in life in general, how to conduct myself. And it probably all happened without Mr. Charlton being mindful of that in a way.
It'd be fair to say, James, that you've never looked back since 2012 and Cityscape. Congratulations on that, and all power to you when we resume race riding here. But most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy and fit, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Angus. Thank
you.
Guys.
Let's go back to Rishi and see what's happening with him at the moment. No, it's all quiet, just Rishi at the moment.
All quiet. Just me.
Nice to hear from James Doyle there. Rishi, of course, he went out to Dubai to ride for Drew Selvan and Ratnam and then picked up that ride on Cityscape. And now, of course, not too far down the line, he's riding winner after winner for Godolphin. So it's a nice story.
serendipity, Captain. And you know, having been out to Dubai so often, how important it is when you get the opportunity to ride out there for trainers who give you the opportunities on some useful horses and the opportunities to ride in big races. It can springboard or be a springboard to some significant success and give you the confidence that when you return back to the UK, how well things can go. I mean, you look at someone like Conor Beasley, who's been riding for Ahmad bin Hamash recently, the last couple of years. You've seen that when he's come back to ride in the UK, his riding has really looked more confident than it has done before and polished. And James Doyle was, like many others, a jockey to get that opportunity in Dubai and really benefited from it. And obviously now Dubai is kind of like his second home.
Yeah, indeed. Rishi, we're going to let you go. Thank you very much indeed for all your contributions today here on the show. I very much enjoyed talking to you, seeing you once again. Stay safe, get better as far as that leg is concerned, and hopefully we'll see you in person in the very near future, mate. All the best.
Captain, thank you very much, and to everybody out there, stay safe as well, and hopefully we'll all get through this and see you on the other side with some racing.
Very much echo those thoughts. Thanks to Rishi and his flying daughter. Talking to James Doyle about his success on Cityscape means that we ought to mention who won the Dubai World Cup in 2012. It was Monte Rosso. It was a 1-2 for Godolphin. We were on the synthetic surface, not the dirt that they race on now, of course, in Dubai. And Monte Rosso had formerly been with the Mark Johnson team, come back off a layoff in his prep race for this, and finished in front of the horse who beat him in that prep race. And he won this. Mahmoud Al-Zaruni yard. Celebrating Mikel Barcelona, he knows how to do that. He did it on Pourbois as well, of course, when he won the Derby. Now, we asked you for some requests from 2012. Steve Croft, hello, hope you're fit and well. Here's Melodic Rendezvous for you.
Now leads by 2.5 lengths as they go towards the third last. Still a long way to go, though. They all jump that okay. Edouard's jumping up a little bit closer. Red and yellow colours on the outside of Imperial Leader. Fourth then on the inner. Well, possibly Valdez just in front, possibly, of Royal Boy in the Michael Buckley colours. And then Village Vic. Melodic Rendezvous at the back for Nick Schofield, together with the driven along Dr. Dreamy, who's the rank outsider here. So they're heading down the hill. Mr. Watson can maintain this gallop. He'll be some machine. He leads by about a length or so, still taking a fierce hold from Imperial Leader, heading down the hill towards the last 2 flights here. Third still is Edouard, really impressive at Newcastle. How good is he? On the outside then is Royal Boy, who's taking a wider course to the second last flight. Mr. Watson still freewheeling on towards the second last, jumped it okay. 2 to the good over Edouard and Imperial Leader. Royal Boy, Valdez getting into it, that big white face on the inside of Village Vic, who's also yet to play his hand. And then Melodic Rendezvous on the wide outside Royal Boy. So these 7 runners now packing up then as they race round towards the home straight. Only Dr. Dreamy is out of it. Any one of these 7 could win this. They're heading up the hill towards the final flight here in the closer today. Still Mr. Watson. He's still clinging on to the advantage. And then on the near side, Imperial Leader. Edouard getting into it as well in the yellow sleeves. Stalked by Melodic Rendezvous up the inner. Valdez being driven. Village Vic likewise coming towards the final flight now. It's who's going to jump it best, really. Edouard just in front of Mr. Watson, who extraordinarily still in there pitching. It's Edouard just in front. Here's Melodic Rendezvous on the far side, thrusting home. So too Royal Boy up the rail. Melodic Rendezvous just in front, a length to good over Royal Boy, who's staying on gamely, but Melodic Rendezvous will collect. Melodic Rendezvous won it from Royal Boy second. Then came Edouard. Imperial Leader was back in fourth, and fading Mr. Watson in fifth.
One of your memories, a Melodic Rendezvous. We've had loads of requests to play out. Your memories from 2012. We've only got time to do a few, so I apologise for those that we can't do. But Willie Orr, you're a lucky man, because here's the Galloping Shoe.
Blue Sky it is who leads from 4th generation, One Pursuit, and Magic Echo on the rails is no head. Follow the Flag with Oratory. Media Hype's White Face has 3 behind. They are Number Theory, 10 Who, and the Restrained on Jumping, the Galloping Shoe. So inside the final 6 furlongs and out in front, Amazing Blue Sky leads by about half a length or so from Fourth Generation. One Pursuit, Magic Echo, just a little awkward round the bend, ends up a little bit in No Head's lap. Behind these towards the outside is Oratory. Media Hype will challenge towards the centre of the racecourse as they approach the last half mile with the big white face. 10 Who is also being ridden along towards the back as the Galloping Shoe tries to make a little ground. Amazing Blue Sky leads from Fourth Generation. Media Hype improving with Oratory. Number Theory in the red with the black star. Then One Pursuit, No Head, the Galloping Shoe from quite a long way back. Plenty of chances as they approach the final 2.5 furlongs. Fourth Generation has moved through to lead, but Media Hype's big stride towards the outside is making relentless progress. Battling on towards the inside, both Number Theory and No Head trying to deliver challenges, and the Galloping Shoe up against this near side rail is coming home very strongly. Media Hype's hanging out towards the centre. The Galloping Shoe continuing to close, running the straighter course. Number Theory on the far side of the racecourse. Media Hype with a white face. The Galloping Shoe is getting there with every stride. Media Hype narrowly from the Galloping Shoe on the run to the line. Media Hype, the Galloping Shoe with one last thrust. They'll carry him very close and maybe pinch the prize. It's going to be close. The Galloping Shoe and Media Hype, they were away from Number Theory. No Head was next. Amazing Blue Sky all the way back then to Fourth Generation and teaming back to 10 Who was last.
Willie Orr, that was just for you. The Galloping Shoe winning for Alistair Williams, Jim Crowley getting up late in the piece to beat to Media Hype by a head. Let's change codes. Let's go to the Bet365 Gold Cup handicap chase for Peter Turner. Here's Tidal Bay.
As they come up then to the water jump, 7 from the finish, where Vic Venturi was just the first to touch down. There was a pretty bad error from Major Malarkey back in the field. LeBeau by in the yellow with the blue headgears being ridden along a little bit. Ruelco Defarge and Dover's Hill are still there from Rare Bob. Behind those is Tidal Bay and Aldertune and Knight and Coombe and Any Currency and Tullamore Dew. The others out of contention, End of Paradise just in behind them. The middle of the railways, and it's just Vic Venturi. The final railway is joined by Ruelco Defarge, who's next to the rails. Tidal Bay with a noseband has come into it now, 1.5 lengths behind the leading pair with Daryl Jacob, and Aldertune in the red jacket is there in 4th place as Rare Bob weakens. LeBeau Bay is beaten, Dover's Hill is beaten, Any Currencies behind that. So as they run then with 3 to jump in the Bet365 Gold Cup, it is Richard Johnson on Ruelco Defarge leading. Vic Venturi, who's been prominent throughout, is coming under pressure. Daryl Jacob is still holding on to Tidal Bay. Nosebanded, the top weight is in 3rd position, about to edge into 2nd. Aldertune, Rare Bob, Any Currency, LeBeau Bay and Dover's Hill behind that, as that was the 3rd last, the pond fence the last time. And it's Ruelco Defarge in front. Tidal Bay is still stalking him. Vic Venturi's in 3rd, Aldertune is behind those in 4th as they come to the 2nd last. Ruelco Defarge by 1.5 lengths to Tidal Bay, who's going to draw level as they approach the final fence, and Daryl Jacob is still holding on to him. So as they come to the 24th and final fence, in the red on the left is Ruelco Defarge, the noseband of Tidal Bay, who led at the last. Vic Venturi and Any Currency are the next 2, and Tidal Bay, who's travelled well throughout the contest. He's carrying 11 stone 12 and he's shooting clear on the run-in. Tidal Bay, an amazing performance from him. He's won it well. Ruelco Defarge in 2nd place, be followed by Any Currency home in 3rd and Vic Venturi 4th.
Wow, what a mercurial talent he was, Tidal Bay, and yet another big winner for Paul Nicholls in 2012. Peter Turner, I hope you enjoyed that. That is just about it from us for today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope we brought a bit of racing joy to you in these difficult times. We'll be back on Friday with a look at 2013. Thank you to all my guests who joined me today. I hope you enjoyed their contributions. Thanks in particular to Rishi, who was with us throughout the afternoon. So that is it. That was 2012. I hope that you stay safe out there, stay healthy, stay fit, and rejoin us on Friday for 2013. Thank you very much for watching. 2012 was truly a stellar year as far as our great sport is concerned. See you on Friday.